Hello family. Welcome to Morales Stories, your home for gripping African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Now sit back and enjoy the drama. Amara stepped onto the raised platform beneath the glittering chandeliers of the Lagos International Convention Center, her pulse hammering in her ears. The audience of Nigeria's wealthiest elite was seated in concentric circles around the stage, their designer gowns and tailored suits gleaming under the banquet lighting. Her floor-length ruby gown clung to her slender frame like a second skin, each fabric fold accentuated by the soft glow. A single platinum necklace rested at the hollow of her throat, its diamonds refracting light in tiny prisms. But Amara felt neither pride nor excitement. Instead, she felt an all-consuming dread. The auctioneer raised his gavel. Ladies and gentlemen, what you see before you is not merely a donation to our charitable foundation. Tonight, you have the unique opportunity to bid on an entire lifetime with our esteemed debutante, Miss Amara Ibru. His voice boomed over the hushed crowd. Gasps rippled through the seats. Several couples exchanged incredulous looks. A few whispered, "How much? Is this legal? She seems so young." Amara's chest tightened. She forced herself to stand tall, gaze composed. She recalled the conversation with her aunt 2 nights ago. "You owe so much more than you realize. Your mother's funeral drained every kobo we had. This is the only way." Amara felt her aunt's urgency still echo in her mind. "Someone will buy you, offer protection, a future. You can't say no." At 17, orphaned months ago by her mother's death, Amara had no choice. Her aunt sold her story to a prominent charity gala organizer who marketed an auction for a good cause. Amara signed the so-called contract, but her relatives never explained exactly how such a bid could legally bind her. Now, under the hottest spotlights she had ever experienced, she realized she might be trapped forever. The auctioneer's gavel clicked. "We open with $500,000. A scrawny young banker raised his paddle. 247. The audience murmured. A middle-aged industrialist next bid $700,000. Amara's breathing grew shallow. She averted her gaze, focusing on the horizon of the auditorium wall as if that could shield her from the mounting tension. Unexpectedly, the doors at the back of the hall swung open, and a hush fell. Damilola Adedeji entered, royalty among Nigeria's tech moguls. At 38, his reputation for ruthless business acumen was legendary: billion-dollar acquisitions, boardroom takeovers, and a private life shrouded in secrecy. He wore a charcoal gray tuxedo that hugged his broad shoulders. A custom silk bow tie accentuated his sharp jawline. His eyes, dark as obsidian, scanned the stage, landing on Amara's quivering form. He raised paddle 711. 800,000, the auctioneer announced. Dami didn't hesitate. Another paddle raised, 1285. 1.2 million. A flash of determination crossed Dami's face. He pressed his paddle again. 2 million. A collective gasp thundered through the crowd. Amara's heart leaped to her throat. Some women had fainted at pitches far lower, some men had railed against the idea of human bidding, and yet here they were, collectively holding their breath. When Dami raised his hand for 2.8 million, the industrialist at 1285 stammered, 3 million. A hush settled. "No one will outbid me," muttered Dami. The scrawny banker whispered to his wife, "Is that even possible?" At 3 million, the room exploded into shocked whispers. No one expected Dami to go past his opening salvo. The auctioneer positioned the gavel. 3.2 million? Silence, then a single finger shot in the air. Dami had become consumed. The industrialist dropped out. Dami pressed his paddle for 3.5 million. The auctioneer's gavel finally came down. Sold, for $3 million to Mr. Damilola Adedeji. Stunned gasps, camera flashes. Amara's legs felt weak. She blinked rapidly to clear her vision. He had paid $3 million for her. For her life, her person? The harsh glare of the lights made her eyes sting. She forced herself to keep her expression calm. As stagehands lifted Amara's right hand and placed it into Dami's gloved palm, she glimpsed him for the first time up close. Lean, impeccably groomed hair, a faint shadow of a beard lining his chin. His eyes regarded her with something like clinical interest. "You're here because I saw something in you," he said, stepping forward. His voice was low, measured. The audience leaned forward, eager for drama. But before he could finish, Amara felt a prickle of unease. How does one auction a person like cattle? Yet everyone cheered. Some guests clapped politely. Others exchanged incredulous glimpses. Now that the auction was over, the formalities began. Tax lawyers for Dammy's corporation would draft a contract of guardianship tomorrow. Apparently, he would ensure she received housing, security, and a monthly allowance until he determined her value to his enterprises. He claimed it was for her protection, though protected from what? Amara felt like a prize pony on display. During the standing ovation, Amara glimpsed her aunt at the back row, half smile on her lips, as if she'd won some secret wager. Amara's knees trembled. She swept her gaze over the assembled elites, some applauding, others snapping pictures, a few skeptically shaking their heads. On stage, Dammy lowered his hand and nodded almost imperceptibly to the stage manager. Two security guards, clad in black suits and dark sunglasses, emerged from the wings. Amara swallowed, her throat constricted. Thank you, she managed, voice barely above a whisper. Dammy gave her a curt nod, eyes still steady. A moment later, the guards guided Amara off the stage. As she descended the steps, she felt the weight of every eye on her. As the crowd parted, brochures clutched in white-gloved hands, whispers followed her. "She looks terrified. Is she okay? At least she'll live in his penthouse." When she reached the backstage corridor, bright lights surrounded her. Paparazzi cameras flashed. Dammy stood under a solitary spotlight in a raised doorway, his silhouette sharp against the gilded frame of his private limousine. As Amara approached, he extended his left hand, no glove, revealing sinewy fingers adorned with a single onyx ring. "Welcome," he said curtly. "I hope you're prepared." Amara nodded, fighting back tears. "I don't understand this," she whispered, voice trembling. "Why did you buy me?" Dammy's gaze assessed her as if she were a live portrait. "That, Miss Ibru, is for me to decide in due time." He turned on his heel, striding toward a waiting Rolls-Royce Phantom. Amara followed, flanked by the guards. The car doors slammed shut, the engine roared to life. They pulled away into the night, lights of tarmac racing past the tinted windows. Seated in the rear cabin, Amara stared at the black leather interior, velvet curtains drawn. The cool air smelled faintly of cedarwood. She bit her lip, her mind whirled. $3 million represented luxury, power, privilege. But to what end? Was there redemption in this? Or was she already trapped? She closed her eyes, thinking of her mother's funeral last winter, when she had sold every heirloom, every cherished memento, to pay off medical debts. Now this. Outside, the city's neon lights blurred as they sped toward Dammy's penthouse estate overlooking the lagoon. Soon, a white-gloved butler opened the door. "Miss Ibru," he intoned, voice hushed. "Welcome to your new home." Amara stepped onto marble flooring polished to a mirror sheen. She felt the plush carpet under her heels, could taste the faint tang of champagne in the cool air. The penthouse's floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Lagos at midnight, a river of flickering headlights, neon signs glaring, city life pulsing like a heartbeat. Before her, Dammy stood by a grand piano. He rose and walked over, placing a firm hand on her shoulder. "This is not your prison," he said in a whisper. "This is an opportunity. Tomorrow morning, we will discuss the terms." Amara nodded, tears welling. I just want to be free." His dark eyes softened. "In time, you will be." As the doors closed behind them, Amara realized her life had changed forever. But little did she know how drastically, and how dangerously, it would transform. Late morning sunlight streamed through the tall windows of Damilola Adedeji's penthouse, illuminating every sleek surface. Crystal chandeliers refracted light onto polished marble floors, making the entire space sparkle. Plush velvet sofas lined the living area, each cushion perfectly fluffed. The overall effect, an opulent modern palace suspended above Lagos's bustling streets. Amara stood barefoot on the cream-colored rug, clutching a single black coffee mug. Steam curled from its polished ceramic lip. She stared across the room at Demi, at AG, whom she now referred to mentally as my purchaser. He sat behind a massive mahogany desk, scrolling through documents on a tablet. His ebony hair was impeccably styled. His charcoal suit seemed tailored to perfection. He hadn't slept in all night after the auction. She suspected he meant business. He glanced up, eyes steely. Your belongings, he queried, voice measured. Your aunt informed me you have a small apartment downtown. Clothes, books, that sort of thing. Would you like to keep them? Amara hesitated, keeping reminders of her past, at least for now. Yes, she said softly. I'd like that. He nodded once, then swiveled his chair. Regarding tonight's gala, the foundation expects you to fulfill your contractual obligations, that is, to appear as my companion. Afterwards, you will receive a monthly allowance of $5,000, plus full tuition at any Lagos university of your choosing. Amara's jaw tightened. She forced herself to meet his gaze. I don't want to be merely your companion. I want to understand what you saw in me. Her voice wavered. Why was I worth $3 million? Dami set the tablet aside. He leaned back, steepling his fingers. The silence stretched. Finally, he exhaled. Miss Ibru, he began, using the full form of her name for the first time. You have something I've been searching for. He stood, paced 3 steps toward the floor-to-ceiling windows. You possess a mind as sharp as any I've encountered. Intelligence rarely aligns with raw resilience, both of which you have in abundance. You are resourceful, ambitious, and curious. You will learn my methods, my strategies, if you agree to one condition. Amara stepped forward, vulnerability mingling with defiance. And that is? He turned, eyes glinting. I require you to be my eyes and ears. You will perform a favor for me, to be defined later. In return, you receive not only shelter and money, but mentorship, lessons in business, finance, networking. You will learn how to stand on your own. Amara swallowed. The promise of education and independence was tempting. She had been forced to drop out of high school to pay her late mother's debts. You're offering me a pardon? She asked quietly. A chance to reclaim my life? Dami's lips curved into the faintest half-smile. Something like that, he said. But remember, nothing in this world comes free. There will be a price, not a price in money, but something far more revealing. Amara's mind raced. She had endured so much: poverty, her mother's illness, the betrayal of family members who sold her name. Could she trust a man who bought her like a collectible? Still, the alternative was a life of menial jobs and constant struggle. She exhaled. All right, I accept. A moment later, the butler escorted Amara to a private guest suite, an elegant combination of minimalist design and high-end finishes. The walls were ivory stripes. A king-size bed with silk sheets occupied the center. A small writing desk sat by the window, where Amara could study. On the desk lay a welcome packet, a university application, a finance textbook, and an envelope containing her first month's allowance. As Amara unpacked, she recalled childhood memories, evenings spent cuddled beside her mother, learning to sew dresses for neighborhood weddings. Her mother had been a seamstress. Her hands had roasted akara on hot plates, fingers darkened by years of cooking oil. Amara's father had died years earlier in an accident. After her mother died, the world around her had collapsed. Now here she was, neither child nor adult, sold to a stranger she wouldn't even call benefactor. Late afternoon, a knock at her door jolted her. The butler slid inside. Miss Ibru, Mr. Adedeji awaits you in the sunroom. He bowed and left as quietly as he had appeared. The sunroom brimmed with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lagos Lagoon, boats drifting like lazy toys, fishermen casting nets, high-rise buildings reflecting gold and blue. Dami sat in a leather armchair, 2 cups of tea on a low table beside him. He gestured to the seat across. Welcome, Miss Ibru. Amara sat and accepted the cup. The tea smelled of bergamot. She took a careful sip. Thank you. He studied her. Tell me about your dreams, he said suddenly. If you could choose any career, any study, what would it be? Amara blinked. Few people invited her to dream. I want to study architecture, she admitted. When I was younger, I'd sketch buildings, humble houses, elaborate palaces, anything. I loved seeing how lines and curves could shape communities. But I never had the chance to pursue it. Dammy nodded. Architecture is about vision and discipline, qualities I value. I've already contacted the dean of the University of Lagos. You begin classes next week. He paused, then asked, but why sell yourself? Why not beg for donations? Why place yourself under contract with a stranger? Amara's throat burned. I had no choice, she whispered. My mother's medical bills, Vardits, my aunt, they threatened me. That night I signed papers I barely understood. She glanced away, shame flooding her. I'm an orphan. Her voice trailed off. Dammy's expression softened for an imperceptible moment. I understand loss, he said. But I see strength in you, not weakness. He leaned forward. It's not about rescuing you. It's about utilizing talent. You're not a charity case, Amara. He pronounced her name like a benediction. You're a collaborator. She blinked back tears. I will work hard, she vowed. I won't disappoint you. He inclined his head. Very well. Tomorrow I'll schedule your training. He paused. One more thing. My sister's organization is hosting a fundraiser next month. I expect you to accompany me as my partner. There will be plenty of influential guests, politicians, business magnates, media personalities. That will be your first assignment. Learn people's motives, gather what you can. Amara felt the weight of his words. And if I refuse? She asked hesitantly. Dammy's gaze hardened. Then our agreement dissolves. You return to the streets. I keep my money. You have no recourse. He ignited a faint smirk. Choose wisely. Amara clenched her cup, knuckles whitening. She forced herself to meet his gaze. I choose to stay. He nodded. Good. Now learn to move in my world. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the lagoon copper and indigo, Amara realized that she was trading one cage, poverty, for another gilded but no less confining. She wrapped her arms around herself as a sudden breeze swept through the open window. She knew that her favor to be named later might cost her far more than her freedom. But she also sensed this was her only chance to escape the cycle that had claimed her mother. And so, with her voice steadier than she felt, Amara vowed to become indispensable, to uncover the truth behind this mysterious offer, even if it meant leaving pieces of her soul at risks. Over the next few days, Amara's life accelerated into a dizzying whirl of classes, personal coaching, and social etiquette. Early mornings found her at the University of Lagos, poring over architectural theory and drafting techniques. Professors praised her natural talent. Classmates envied her confidence, unaware of the invisible contract that bound her to Dammy. Afternoons were reserved for training. Dammy's private consultant, a former intelligence officer named Mr. Obi, arrived at the penthouse. Clad in a gray button-down and black slacks, Obi moved with the quiet efficiency of a predator. He instructed Amara in the art of observation. In any room, your first target is to notice the power players. Their posture, the way they position themselves, their handshakes. You must decode all that before even speaking a word. Amara learned to memorize faces, voices, car models. Obi drilled her on micro-expressions, how a twitch of the lip could signal deceit, how a narrowed gaze could mask fear. They practiced discreet surveillance techniques, recording conversations, planting bugs, pretending to be a socialite while gathering critical data. At night, Amara returned to her suite, mind racing with half-remembered codes and obscure references to corporate hierarchies. One evening, Dammy appeared unexpectedly in her study. He set a leather-bound folder on her desk. Your mission is in here. Amara opened it, nerves taut. I've arranged an invitation for you to attend Solomon Adigok's rooftop party next Saturday. Solomon is a competitor. I want you to get close enough to eavesdrop, maybe lift data from his encrypted laptop. He's discussing a hostile takeover. He could undermine my company's interests. Amara's stomach twisted. And if I fail? Dami exhaled softly. Failure is not an option, at least, not for long. His dark eyes bored into hers. You will be well rewarded for success. Fail and our arrangement ends. She glanced at the pictures of Solomon in the folder, a well-groomed, silver-haired magnate who exuded wealth and confidence. I'll do my best, she whispered. Saturday arrived. Amara stood on the broad marble terrace of the rooftop in Victoria Island, lined with potted orchids and palm trees swaying in the warm breeze. Lagos's skyline stretched behind her, the bridge illuminated in gold, the river glistening like a ribbon of stars. Solomon's party was an exclusive affair. Models in red carpet gowns, senators in crisp Ankara attire, diplomats draped in jeweled collars. He mingled near the bar, sipping champagne from a crystal flute, his steely gaze scanning the crowd. Amara slipped through the throng wearing a sleek black cocktail dress and a silver necklace. Obi had coached her to appear at ease, though her stomach churned. At the far end, a table held an array of hors d'oeuvres, plantain chips, jollof cake, burrata cheese with caramelized onions. Amara pretended to study the bites while listening for Solomon's conversation. A tall man in a white agbada approached, offering her a flute of champagne. You must be new, he said, nodding toward the dance floor. Name's Ibrahim Sani. What do you do? Amara smiled, voice even. Architecture student. She watched him for cues. Beautiful evening, isn't it? Ibrahim's eyes drifted toward Solomon, who was conversing with two suited men. Yes. But business in Lagos never sleeps. Amara nodded, feigning modesty. As Ibrahim turned to scout the crowd, she slipped away, edging toward Solomon. He stood before a low lounge chair, a sleek laptop open on the side table. His guard patrolled nearby, a muscular man with an earpiece and a bespectacled face. Amara cleared her throat. Excuse me, Mr. Adagok? Solomon's brow arched. Yes. He closed his laptop halfway as if uncertain. I'm an architecture student working on a project about Lagos skylines. I admire your philanthropy towards city development. She forced a polite smile. Would you mind if I asked a few questions? He studied her, dark skin luminous under the terrace lights, earnest chocolate eyes. Philanthropy is not my primary endeavor, but I support urban renewal when it suits my portfolio. His lips quirked. You have an accent. Where are you from? Lagos, she replied. Born and raised. But thanks to generous sponsors, I travel for conferences. She paused, noticing the guard's gaze shifting. I admire your vision, how you blend commerce with community service. May I interview you formally? Solomon raised his glass. Make it brief, he said. I have associates to meet. Amara nodded. Of course. She pressed a tiny recording device into her palm. Will 2 minutes suffice? He smirked. His guard tensed. 1 minute. As Solomon spoke, analyzing zoning laws, foreign investment, his plans to build a tech hub, Amara noted every syllable. Her heartbeat synced with his cadence. When he turned his back to fetch another drink, she inched closer to the laptop. It lay unlocked. She carefully slid the device under the keyboard and quietly initiated a transfer via her own tablet. Seconds later, a ping confirmed she had extracted the encrypted data files. But then Solomon returned, eyes cold. Miss? He leaned in, eyes searching hers. I didn't authorize photography or recording. His guard stepped forward. Amara forced calm. Mr. Adagok, she began. Solomon's guard seized her arm. You're coming with us. He marched her toward a private corridor. Amara's heart pounded. Her cover was blown. She glanced up, Solomon's lips curled. You picked the wrong lion's den, little cub. Inside the pitch-black hallway, Amara seized an opening, a stray elbow to the guard's torso. He stumbled, giving her a moment to sprint down the steps, adrenaline propelling her. She raced past clusters of guests, their shocked faces illuminated by moonlight. At the elevator lobby, she pressed the button and rode down alone, shaking. When the doors parted on the ground floor, she bolted through the French doors into the night air, lungs burning. A sleek black SUV idled at the curb, Dammy's signature vehicle. Amara flung open the rear door, collapsing inside. Dammy sat opposite her, arms crossed. "Well?" he asked calmly as he eased away from the curb. Amara handed him her tablet, voice trembling. "I got the files." Dammy scrolled through the decrypted documents, email threads, spreadsheets outlining takeover bids, shell company accounts. His gaze darkened. "You did well." She bowed her head, chest heaving. "He recognized me. Barely escaped." Dammy placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Good instincts. We'll dispose of any trace that you were ever there." His eyes softened for a moment. "Next time, do not underestimate your target." Amara nodded numbly. As they drove through Lagos's neon-lit streets, she realized her life had shifted from survival to silent warfare. She had become a pawn in Dammy's grand chessboard, a move at every turn, never certain who might checkmate her. Yet, even as fear pulsed in her veins, a flicker of excitement rose. She was learning, evolving, shaping her destiny under Dammy's exacting tutelage. Later, in the penthouse's sunroom, Dammy traced her silhouette against the city lights. "You will attend the gala again as my companion. That is your next mission. Gain access to an investor meeting between my half-brother, Khalad Adedeji, and the Adagok Consortium. We must prevent any alliance." He paused. "Khalad is cunning, be wary." Amara sipped her tea, mind whirring. Khalad Adedeji, the half-brother unknown to most. If Dammy sought to keep Khalad's identity hidden, something deeper lurked. But for now, she kept silent. "Yes, sir," she replied, voice steady. As the last vestiges of moonlight faded into Lagos's nighttime glow, Amara realized that her assignment was more than espionage. It was a tangled web of family betrayal, corporate greed, and secrets older than she could imagine. And she was at the center. 2 weeks later, Amara stood in front of her mirror, adjusting the bow at her neck. Tonight's gala, hosted by Dammy's sister, Temitope Adedeji, promised to be the most glamorous event of the season. The ballroom would be packed with heads of state, chief executives, and media moguls. But beneath the glittering chandeliers and swirling waltzes, darker forces conspired, family feuds, corporate espionage, and hidden agendas. Amara's reflection showed a young woman radiating confidence, an ebony complexion accentuated by deep emerald earrings, lips painted matte burgundy. Yet inside, her heart pounded like a drum. She had one objective: to get close enough to Khalad Adedeji, Dammy's estranged half-brother, and pick up clues about his alliance with Solomon Adagok. Dammy had ordered strict discretion. "You are not merely my arm candy, you are my operative." At precisely 7 o'clock, the elevator doors opened onto a foyer of ivory marble. White-gloved attendants guided guests toward the grand staircase leading up to the ballroom. The red carpet unfolded like a velvet river. Paparazzi flashed cameras as each guest ascended, style influencers clad in cascading silk, oil barons with diamond cufflinks, senators in traditional agbada. In the center of it all stood Dammy, handsome as ever, flanked by Temitope, a striking woman in a silver lace gown. They shared a smile of practiced ease. Temitope turned to Amara. "You look exquisite, sister-in-law." She placed a perfumed hand on Amara's shoulder. "Shall we?" They ascended into the sweeping arches of the ballroom, where orchestral strings floated above clinking champagne flutes. A grand chandelier of Swarovski crystals cast rainbow reflections on polished tables set with white china and gold-rimmed glassware. As Amara entered, her gaze darted across the crowd. At one corner, Khalad Adedeji, taller and leaner than Dammy, stood in a midnight blue tuxedo. His smooth, sculpted features mirrored Dammy's, yet there was something more weathered about his dark eyes, as though he had endured greater storms. He laughed at an associate's joke, a glass of scotch in his hand. Amara turned to Dammy. "There he is." Dammy nodded, eyes narrowing. "Approach him casually. Engage in small talk. Probe for any hint of Solomon's involvement." Amara inhaled, smoothing her gown. Taking a deep breath, she weaved through clusters of guests toward Khalad. His associate, A portly man in a pinstripe suit held a stack of documents. As Amara neared, Claude caught sight of her and a flicker of recognition passed over his face. She forced a warm smile. "Good evening, Mr. Adedeji," she greeted. "I'm Amara Ibru, Dami's friend." Her voice was steady with politeness. She extended a gloved hand. Claude glanced at her hand as if registering her presence, then took it with a light squeeze. "Miss Ibru," he replied softly. His voice was smooth, tinged with surprise. "Dami didn't mention you would attend." He studied her amethyst earrings, perfectly coiffed hair. "You're quite radiant." She offered a polite curtsy. "Thank you. I'm honored to be here." She allowed her gaze to drift to the documents his associate clutched. Logos from Adigo Consortium, proposed merger agreements. Amara's pulse quickened. Those papers held clues. "I see you discuss business with Solomon's group," she ventured, nodding at the documents. "Care to share your insights?" Claude's eyebrow rose. "Quite perceptive." He steered her into a quieter alcove behind a row of potted orchids. "I suppose it's only natural, given my family's involvement." He glanced about, the orchid blossoms softening his expression. "The Adedeji legacy is complicated." Amara feigned interest. "I've heard rumors of a feud between you and Dami. People whisper that after father's death, the inheritance split was uneven." Claude's face hardened. "Whispers hold little truth." He reached inside his pocket, drawing out a folded photograph. A younger Dami and Claude with their late father, Chief Adedeji. "Father loved us differently." His voice wavered. "Dami stayed in Abuja, following father's footsteps into politics. I struck out on my own, studying in London, returning to start my own ventures." Amara allowed a concerned frown. "Sounds painful. But tonight, you speak with Solomon. Do you trust his intentions?" Claude folded his arms. "Trust is a privilege, Miss Ibru. Solomon promised me expanded market share in West Africa, an alliance I couldn't refuse." He inhaled. "Dami sees this as betrayal." He turned his gaze toward the dance floor, where Temitope swayed in a waltz. This gala was an olive branch. A chance to call truce. He paused. "But I suspect Solomon tempts me to seize control of Dami's market in telecommunications. He wants to weaken Dami before the merger." Amara's mind raced. She needed confirmation. "Do you and Solomon plan to finalize terms tonight?" Claude hesitated. "Yes." "After sundown, his team waits at the Helix Bar, private lounge through that door," he said, nodding toward a discreet wooden arch. "We finalize signatures, share stock options. Nothing is set in stone." He studied Amara. "Why do you care?" Amara forced a languid smile. "I admire us staying family-friendly." She lowered her voice. "Dami asked me to keep an eye on you." Claude's eyes sharpened. "Dami uses you for his schemes." He let out a mirthless chuckle. "Be careful, Miss Ibru." He stepped away, merging into a crowd of executives discussing rail projects. Amara exhaled slowly, heart pounding. She jotted mental notes. Claude's betrayal was deeper than she'd imagined. She slipped away toward the arch labeled Helix Bar. The barkeep, a tall man with an immaculate beard, eyed her coolly. "You here for Adedeji's private meeting?" Amara nodded. "Yes." He handed her a dark amber cocktail in a crystal glass. "Keep this close." She nodded, following him through the plush hallway. Inside the Helix Bar, low-hung copper lights cast amber pools on velvet banquettes. Around an oval mahogany table sat Solomon Adegok, Claude, and 3 of Solomon's lieutenants. Solomon held a pen above the final signature line of a contract. As Claude rose, Solomon welcomed him with a nod. "Well, we meet under pleasant circumstances." His voice was smooth. "Shall we proceed?" Claude slid his eyeglasses onto the table. "Yes." He cleared his throat. "First, the fiduciary hold on the 12% shares of Dami's telecom stock. Then the minority share in Urban Renew plc. As soon as we finalize, my board votes in favor." Solomon grinned, revealing perfect teeth. "All in good time." He signed first, sliding the contract to Claude. Your turn. Claude's pen hovered. At that moment, Amara felt sweat bead at her temples. She needed proof, a photograph, a recording, something Dammy could use as leverage. As Claude signed, Amara discreetly activated her phone's voice recorder, angling it toward the table. Every syllable mattered. Claude's admission that he planned to seize Dammy's shares and hand them to Solomon's consortium. But before her phone could finish buffering, a hand clasped her shoulder. Miss Ibru. A sharp voice. She froze. Turning, she saw Claude's associate, the portly man from earlier. You have no business here. He reached for her arm. Amara forced a friendly nod. I'm just looking for a restroom. She released her phone into a pocket, stepping back. Thank you. She brushed past him, heart thundering, and retraced her steps through the hallway back toward the ballroom. Once she was sure no one trailed her, Amara paused behind a decorative screen of ferns. She exhaled, rubbing her sweaty palms. Her phone's recorder chime confirmed the file. 28 seconds of high-fidelity audio, enough to incriminate Claude and Solomon. She sank against the screen, battling nausea. She had just stolen proof of a betrayal that ran deeper than she'd ever suspected. Emerging into the ballroom, Amara spotted Dammy speaking with Temitope near the tiered dance floor. He looked up as she approached, gratitude in his eyes. You have it? He asked quietly. She nodded, passing him the phone. Dammy slipped it into his pocket. Well done. He paused, scanning the room. Now stay close to me. Claude will look for you. He'll realize his contract is compromised. He draped an arm around her shoulders and led her toward the main stage, where Temitope was about to speak. As Temitope took the microphone, praising charitable initiatives and announcing a multimillion-dollar donation from the Adedeji Foundation, Dammy leaned close to Amara. Tonight, we play by their rules, but we will win. His warm breath tickled her ear. You may return to your studies tomorrow, but remember, you are a soldier in this war. Amara nodded, swallowing her fear as the sound of applause filled the chandeliered hall. Beneath the facade of wealth and generosity, two brothers were sharpening knives. And Amara, the girl once sold for $3 million, was now the catalyst who might bring them to reconcile or send their empires crumbling into ruin. The following evening, Amara sat in a secure corner of the penthouse's private screening room, watching Dammy's smear campaign unfold. Dammy had arranged for mainstream outlets to receive selective leaks, transcripts from early investor meetings indicating Claude's plans to redirect Dammy's telecommunications shares to Solomon Adegok. The ripple through Lagos's corporate world was immediate. Headlines read, Family Feud Splits Adedeji Empire, and Shock, Billionaire Brothers at War. Dammy stood beside her, arms crossed. We'll escalate tomorrow at the press gala. He pointed to the holographic projection hovering above the center table, video clips showing Claude shaking hands with Solomon's executives, discussing stock shares behind closed doors. Amara felt a surge of triumph mixed with guilt. Betrayal was ugly, even when used for righteous ends. Dammy turned off the projector. Tomorrow, we go to the national press event at the Civic Center. We will stage a live confrontation. He paused, watching her. Are you ready? Amara exhaled. Yes. But her mind replayed Claude's pained expression when his guard nearly caught her. Claude had confided that Dammy and their father had been estranged since childhood, that resentment festered. Dammy, in turn, had resented Claude's success. And all of it traced back to their late father's favoritism. But Amara's lineage connected here too. Her late mother had been Chief Adedeji's fiancée before he married Claude and Dammy's mother. If the truth emerged, the entire family's reputation could shatter. That night, after midnight, Amara lay in bed, mind swirling. She recalled her mother's gentle voice. Whatever happens, keep your dignity. Memories of childhood laughter in her mother's small living room, fabric scraps strewn around, scents of onions and peppers sizzling on the stove. She felt a pang in her chest. Was she now complicit in destroying more lives? Or was she finally free to carve a destiny far from poverty? At dawn, Amara attended her architecture lecture, feigning normalcy. She sketched building outlines absent-mindedly, skybridge, multi-tiered plazas, open courtyards. while her professor discussed Bauhaus influences. Later, she slipped to the penthouse, readying for the press gala. The national press event unfolded in a cavernous auditorium draped in red velvet. Dozens of cameras from domestic and international media were set on rotating tripods. Rows of journalists and influencers whispered among themselves beneath glaring spotlights. A raised stage dominated the far wall, flanked by oversized screens. Dammy's team had taken front-row seats. Amara stood beside him at a podium bearing the Adedeji Foundation's emblem. Temitope, radiant in a lavender silk gown, waited at his side. Journalists leaned forward, pens poised, ready for the spectacle promised to be the showdown of the year. Dammy stepped to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending this unprecedented event. Tonight, I bring you the truth of a betrayal that could have crippled our nation's telecommunications and infrastructure." He took a breath. "My brother, Khalid Adedeji, has conspired with Solomon Adegok's consortium to siphon our family's assets that belong to our employees, our stakeholders, our country." He signaled to a technician. A video flickered to life on the left screen, showing Khalid and Solomon exchanging documents. Gasps echoed. On the right screen, Amara's voice played. "From my private recording on June 4th, Khalid Adedeji, we finalized the 12% shares in Dammy's Telenet Holdings to give Adegok Consortium controlling interest. They front money, I become minority partner. Dammy's empire sinks." The crowd erupted. Cameras flashed. Journalists scribbled fiercely. From backstage, Khalid's voice thundered. "This is a smear campaign, fabricated evidence." Dammy raised a gloved hand for silence. "I invited my brother here to face the truth. Khalid? Step forward." Khalid emerged from the back corridor, face pale under the spotlight. He stood tall but fists clenched. Dammy allowed the crowd's cacophony to fade. "Khalid," he said, voice low. "Is this your signature, your voice?" Khalid hesitated, then stammered, "Is I said those words." The auditorium crackled with tension. Dammy nodded curtly. "So that is your confession. Now explain, why sell out your own brother? Why betray this family?" Khalid swallowed. "You never cared about me. Father favored you. You inherited the empire while I struggled." His voice broke. "Solomon offered me a way out." Before Dammy could reply, a thunderous explosion rocked the stage. The floor trembled as a man in a ski mask and tactical vest burst through the hinged wall behind Khalid, brandishing an AK-47. Gasps and screams ricocheted. Journalists ducked for cover. Chaos erupted. Amara's heart pounded. Amid the panic, some recognized Dammy and Khalid. Others scattered toward the exits. The gunman took aim at the brothers, both frozen in shock. He barked, "You both belong to me now." His voice reverberated. He fired a round into the ceiling, debris raining down. Dammy lunged, pushing Amara behind the podium as the gunman's crosshairs swept the crowd. "Stay down." Amara felt bone-jolting fear, but she glanced at Khalid, his face etched with regret. "Let me talk," Khalid called out, voice shaky. "I can fix this. Just listen." The gunman hesitated, a fraction of a second, enough for Dammy to pounce forward. He lunged for the gunman's rifle barrel, knocking it off target. The gunman's finger slipped, sending another bullet ricocheting off a marble column. As he staggered back, Dammy tackled him. The masked man went down, rifle skidding across the floor. Security guards swarmed, subduing the attacker, disarming him. Embers from the weapon's muzzle flashed in the dim light. In seconds, the crisis was over. Journalists peeked over seats, whispers filled the air. Medics rushed onto the stage. Amara stumbled forward, pressing a trembling hand to Dammy's arm. "Are you?" He waved her off, voice calm. "I'm fine." He looked at Khalid, who was kneeling beside the fallen assailant, catching his breath. Khalid met his brother's eyes, pain and apology warring within. The auditorium doors burst open as police and SWAT officers poured in. Flashing red and blue strobes painted the walls. A hush descended as everyone realized the full magnitude, a live attempt on the Adedeji brothers' lives, on national television. Dami reclaimed the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. Our security forces have the situation under control. He gestured at his brother. Khalad is safe. The deranged gunman, an Adigo consortium operative seeking revenge for our expose. Khalad rose, face drained of color. This ends tonight. His voice cracked. We must stop this vendetta. Dami's shoulders slackened, relief mixed with lingering anger. Temitope rushed to his side, placing a comforting hand on his back. Amara remained rooted, heart racing. She realized that in revealing Khalad's conspiracy, they had saved Dami's empire, but nearly cost his brother's life. Tears pricked her eyes, the line between justice and vengeance blurred. Sirens wailed outside as the assailant was escorted away. Journalists clamored for quotes, cameras panned across the stunned faces of politicians. Dami held the microphone, voice resolute. This is more than a family feud. It's a symptom of corruption and greed that infects our nation's highest echelons. But together, we will rebuild, on foundations of truth and integrity. He turned to Khalad. Are you with me? Khalad stared at his brother, then nodded slowly. Yes, he said, voice raw. I'm with you. The audience exhaled in unison, some in relief, others in disbelief. The screens flickered with images of the gunman's capture. Speechless, Amara wondered, would this event heal the rift between the brothers, or merely deepen the wounds? And where did that leave her? Once a pawn, now a queen-maker on the board. As the crowd dispersed under flashing lights, Dami guided Amara off stage. Tonight, you did more than gather intel, he said softly. You saved my life. Amara shook her head. I just followed orders. He smiled faintly. You followed your heart too. As they exited through a side door, she looked back at the stage, now emptied, the crimson velvet curtains drawn shut. She recognized that their story was far from over. Secrets still lay buried, loyalties would be tested again. And she, the girl once sold for $3 million, would play a pivotal role in deciding whether the Adedeji legacy would rise from the ashes or collapse forever. Damilola Adedeji stood on the balcony of his penthouse at dawn, gazing at the Lagos skyline painted in rose and lavender. The morning breeze carried the distant hum of traffic. He had spent the night awake, reviewing security tapes, coordinating with the special anti-robbery squad, and ensuring Khalad's safety. The attack had failed, but the undercurrent of betrayal and vengeance ran deep. Amara emerged from the suite behind him, wrapped in a silk robe. Her eyes bore dark circles, but her posture was steely with determination. She handed Dami a steaming mug of matte black coffee. You should rest, she urged. Dami accepted the mug, words quiet. I know there are those who will try again. He took a measured sip, glancing at her. But first, we must address the public fallout. He laid out his plan, a live-streamed press conference at noon, followed by formal apologies, legal agreements, and restructuring of the Adedeji Foundation. Amara nodded, mind racing through logistics. Prepare my statement, he said. I need transparency and an olive branch. He paused. And I need you by my side. Amara hesitated. Memories of that first night at the auction flooded back. The night she had felt utterly powerless. But now she held agency. Of course, she replied. Whatever you need. Mid-morning found Amara in front of a vanity mirror, adjusting her hair. Her emerald earring sparkled. She tugged at the hem of her fitted charcoal dress, Dami's suggestion. A look that projected strength without intimidation. She practiced her expressions, composed, sympathetic, resolute. Across from her, Khalad sat on a stool, silent. He appeared thinner than the night before, haunted by guilt. Amara stood and approached him. How are you feeling? She asked gently. Khalad exhaled slowly. I've never felt more ashamed of failing the family, of nearly getting you killed, Dami. He closed his eyes. I thought Solomon offered me a shortcut to success. I was blinded by greed. He opened his eyes, red-rimmed. I deserve whatever comes. Amara placed a hand on his shoulder. You risked your life to come forward after the attack. That counts for something. He looked up, voice wobbly. You gave me a chance. Dammy gave me a chance. I must make this right. Soon, the conference began. At the podium, cameras lined the stage, a sea of hungry lenses. Dammy and Khalad stood side by side. Amara positioned herself discreetly to the side, a silent sentinel. As the chairperson introduced them, applause rippled. Dammy approached the microphone. Today, my brother Khalad and I reveal truths that may shock the public. In recent weeks, my half-brother conspired with Solomon Adagok's consortium to undermine our family's telecommunications empire for personal gain. His words were clear, unwavering. I take responsibility for not recognizing Khalad's struggles. I failed as a brother, but I do not believe in destroying our bloodline to serve corporate interests. Today, we announce a reconciliation, an agreement that Khalad will assume a leadership role in the newly restructured Telenet Holdings, focusing on community outreach and development. Khalad swallowed, voice raspy. I apologize to my brother, to our employees, to every person who believed in the Adedeji name. I was misguided, selfish. I'm grateful to Dammy for stopping me before I destroyed everything he built. I vow to rebuild trust through transparency, integrity, and service. A cluster of microphones clustered before them. Journalists pressed for questions. One reporter asked, "What about the attempted assassination? Who was behind it?" Dammy exhaled. The gunman was an operative hired by Adagok Consortium. We have evidence, video, communications, pinpointing the source. We will pursue justice in Nigerian courts and internationally. He turned to Khalad. I forgive you, brother. Now let us forge a legacy of unity. Applause erupted, some enthusiastic, others polite. As they departed the stage, Amara exhaled in relief. Outside, reporters mobbed them, flashes, shouted questions. Dammy held Khalad's arm, protective. Amara moved to intercept a reporter. Miss Ibru, the reporter asked, what role did you play in uncovering this conspiracy? Amara offered a calm nod. I simply assisted in gathering evidence. My aim was to restore peace to our family and protect the employees whose futures were at stake. She paused. I believe we must all stand for truth, even when it hurts. Cameras hummed, microphones leaned in. She added, and I hope this marks a new beginning for the Adedegis and for Lagos. Later that evening, under the glowing skyline, the brothers held a private meeting in Dammy's study. The atmosphere was unexpected, no tension, only the scent of freshly brewed coffee and the faint click of mechanical clocks. Books lined mahogany shelves, family portraits in gilded frames hung neatly. Dammy settled behind his desk. Khalad, I want you to oversee the Adedeji Community Fund, educational scholarships, microloans for small businesses, affordable housing projects. Use your skills for upliftment. Khalad exhaled gratefully. Thank you. I won't fail you this time. He sat across, hands clasped. Dammy's gaze drifted to Amara, who stood by the window, arms folded. Amara, your contribution has been invaluable. I intend to finance your education fully, but I also want to offer you a position as advisor to the foundation, leading our architectural projects for low-income housing. Think about it. Amara blinked, surprise mingling with pride. I would be honored. Tears glistened in her eyes, tears of relief, of gratitude, of vindication. She thought of the girl sold for $3 million and realized how far she had come, from voiceless commodity to active architect of change. Dammy rose and approached her. He placed a gentle hand under her chin. You have earned your freedom, and then some. His voice was soft. But more than that, you've given us a chance to heal. For that, I owe you everything. Khalad nodded fervently. I owe you as well. You saved my life, literally and figuratively. Amara shook her head. No, you saved us all. She looked around at the two brothers standing in a fragile but genuine truce, the city lights dancing behind them. This is our redemption. Months later, the Ibru Adedeji Community Design Initiative launched, unveiling a model housing complex in a low-income district. Amara stood on the ribbon-cutting stage, dressed in a tailored white blazer over indigo Ankara sheets. Beside her, Dammy and Khalad beamed at families moving into new apartments. Flashbulbs popped. Local news crews covered the moment. Smiles filled the courtyard. Children ran between pastel-colored columns. Mothers sat on benches chatting. A once impoverished neighborhood now bustled with hope. Amara closed her eyes, recalling the auction stage months ago. She had felt worthless, reduced to a dollar sign. Now, she stood recognized for her talents, her spirit, her perseverance. Dammy approached, cradling a sheaf of documents, blueprints for the next phase. "Our first community school," he said. "Your designs." She opened her eyes, heart swelling. "Let's build something that lasts." She shook hands with local officials, her voice radiant with promise. Khalad joined them, handing flowers to grateful residents. The brothers stood united, brotherhood restored. That night, on the penthouse balcony, Amara and Dammy watched fireworks launched from the lagoon. Each explosion blossomed into vibrant reds, blues, and golds. "Do you ever think of that night at the auction?" Amara asked softly. Dammy nodded. "I do. I regret everything that led you there." He reached for her hand. "But I'm grateful because it brought you to me, if only so I could set you free." Amara looked at him, smiling through tears. "Freedom isn't just the absence of chains," she whispered. "It's being able to choose where to go, and knowing that you belong." She leaned into his warmth. "I believe the future will be different for all of us." Dammy kissed her forehead, the fireworks reflecting in his dark eyes. "Together," he murmured, "together we'll be unstoppable." They stood as dawn tinged the horizon, brothers reconciled, a family redeemed, and Amara, once a prize, now the architect of her own destiny. In the distance, the city's lights blinked like constellations. Their story, born from betrayal and bound by blood, had erupted like a phoenix from the ashes. As the last fireworks faded, Amara felt a profound truth. Redemption was not a solitary act but a chain reaction, transforming pain into purpose, darkness into light. And so, as Lagos awakened beneath a pink sky, Amara smiled, knowing her life, and the Adedeji legacy, had truly been reborn. The end. Love the story? Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and become part of the Morales Stories family. Your support helps us bring more powerful African tales to life. Thanks for watching. We can't wait to share the next one with you. See you soon.